We're going to talk about Brexit now. And Troy, where's Troy Kennedy? Your question on Brexit, Troy.
Yeah, 60% of Londoners voted to remain in the European Union, including myself, and many of us feel forgotten about. So what would your party do to ensure that London's interests are being considered in the upcoming Brexit negotiations?
So Britain is Brexit, London is Remain. Vince Cable, what needs to happen?
Well, I think we have to start by saying that the hard, extreme kind of UKIP style of Brexit, which the government is committed to, taking us out of the single market, the customs union, is potentially enormously damaging, and we must try to stop that. It's particularly damaging for London for a whole host of reasons. The financial services industry, which is fundamental here, provides the tax base of the city, is going to migrate out because they don't have single-mark passporting rights. We have these wonderful universities and research centres that are going to lose their European money. We're going to lose access to the European Investment Bank that's fund all the big public transport infrastructure. We've got, I think, a quarter of all the top 250 companies in the world are headquartered here specifically because they see Britain as a gateway to Europe. And if we have a serious disruption of our trade, particularly the breaking up of the customs union, a lot of those companies are going to go. So the impact on London is massive.
But isn't that the argument you lost last year?
No, we haven't lost the argument. The referendum has happened, the vote's taken place.
It's gone.
There are different ways of leaving the European Union. You can do it in the hard, extreme way that this government has chosen. We didn't have to leave the single market. We don't have to leave the customs union. We don't have to break up all the collaborative relationships around research, which is what will happen if we have a bad deal or we have no deal, which Theresa May is committed to, and we must try to avoid that.
Peter Whittle, you want a hard Brexit. You want to be out tomorrow, don't you, basically?
No. This thing about hard Brexit, soft Brexit, now it's become extreme Brexit and it's become UKIP Brexit. There is just Brexit. And when people voted last year, they knew what they were voting for. The assumption behind all of my colleagues here all voted to remain, right? I'm the only one who voted for Brexit, is that basically people were too stupid when they were given the choice. And the fact is, I don't think people are stupid. They were told very clearly it means leaving the single market. It means an end to free movement. That is the reason that people mostly voted for it in the country. I admit in London, it was 60%, but there were 40% of Londoners who still voted to leave. All that Vince is doing is like, this is like Project Fear 3.0. This is replaying the whole thing.
Yes, lots of people want to talk about this. The gentleman here wearing the glasses, if you don't mind me saying so.
I'm sorry, but there were numerous different people from different parties who were backing Brexit, who were coming out with different things. So you can't say that people knew exactly what Brexit was about. Because I know
it was the same
Conservative minister actually said that if we left the European Union, that we would stay in the single market. There was so many different bits of information that no one knew.
Thank you. Anyone here think that you voted out but thinking we could stay in the single market? Is there... Nobody. OK. Yes, you want to speak?
I think the Brexit debate has really typified the ineptitude of so many elected politicians. There's no hard Brexit, it's just Brexit. What does that mean? Red, white and blue Brexit? What does that mean?
It means controlling our own borders. It means controlling our own laws. It's all the things that people voted for, very clearly.
Until the countries that you want to make trade deals with say, well, we want visa access for our people. You have no strategy. None of you on this stage have a coherent strategy.
And
that's what affects Londoners, and that's why we're at risk.
OK, this lady here, what's your question?
We were also told it meant £350 million a week for our NHS.
I can just say that we thought that was wrong. That was the Tory campaign. That was the Tory campaign, vote leave, put that on the bus. That was never right. That was never right. Our figure was, UKIP, was 250 million, which is actually the correct amount, no one disputes. That was the Tory campaign, vote leave, and they were wrong.
OK, gosh, you didn't go and lie down in front of that bus with the 350 million on, did you?
No, wait a minute. Nigel was very clear, Nigel Farage at the time, that this was an incorrect figure.
The day after, yeah. OK. Gavin Barwick, you were Remain, were you?
I was.
Right, and aren't you a bit embarrassed now to be part of this pro-Brexit government?
No, because I said very clearly before the referendum that I would respect the result. But I don't think anyone's actually answered Troy's question. So he was saying that he was a Remain voter and he's feeling ignored, essentially. So I hope you don't feel like that. I think what's really important now is that we respect the result and we try and bring the country back together. And that means addressing the things that led people to vote Leave, but trying to preserve some of the things that those of us that voted Remain liked about the institution. And where I disagree with Vince, and we were on the same side in the referendum, you know, if you stay in the single market and you stay in the customs union, that isn't Brexit at all. You've still got free movement, you've still got the EU making laws that we wouldn't have a say in, and you can't do any trade deals with any other countries. That's not Brexit. So it's no good as a country if we just spend the whole next year arguing about the referendum that we had last year. We've got to bring the country together and we've got to get the right Brexit deal.
Why don't you say to EU nationals who are working in London that they can stay?
So
why don't you say that? You're the only party not saying it.
So we absolutely want them to stay. We have a duty as a government both to look after EU citizens who've been living here and contributing to our great city and to look after British citizens that are in EU countries. But the key choice at this election, these negotiations are going to start, Troy, a few days after the general election. And the question is, who do you want leading those negotiations? Do you want Theresa May or do you want Jeremy Corbyn? That is the key question at this election.
OK. Well, Diane Abbott, you Labour have conceded that free movement will end. And your party seemed to say it through gritted teeth. Why did you say that?
Because...
It's not what you believe.
No, free movement is a function of being in the EU. If we're not in the EU, free movement ends. But to go back to the question, there are over 1 million EU nationals living in this country, living in London. And the Labour Party does not believe that we should use them as bargaining chips in a negotiation. We believe that we should straight away say that we will secure their position. And it's not just because it's a human rights issue. Those EU nationals are working in our hospitals, they are working in social care.
Anyone in this room in that position?
They're working in financial services.
OK,
and some
maybe
of them
not.
have British partners and British children. So that's the first thing we would do.
Would you do that, Sian Berry?
Absolutely. I mean, I think...
You'd guarantee their place?
Absolutely.
And lose the bargaining chip?
I'm ashamed that we haven't got further in nearly a year in terms of negotiations. I mean, Vince is right to list all those things that we might lose. The negotiations are going to be really, really intricate. And yet every time you raise, well, OK, what are we going to do about EU nationals? What are we going to do about science funding? You say that to somebody who's Leave, and all they do is shout back the slogans at you as if you're having the debate again. But actually, we need to be talking much more about the details. I'll tell you who I want negotiating Brexit. I want Caroline Lucas negotiating Brexit. She was an MEP for 10 years. She hasn't got a massive chip on her shoulder, and she can just go out there and actually try and get the best deal for us in Europe. But once we do know what that deal is, I think we need to have a second referendum. Not the same question, a ratification referendum, once we know what the deal is, because it's true.
Who's
we
Brexit
didn't know
here?
what we were voting
Thank you,
for.
Sian.
Exactly.
Who's Brexit here? Put your hand up if you're Brexit. Let's see. OK. The gentleman in the jacket just at the end of the row.
Yeah, I think you're all living in cuckoo land if you think we're going to throw all the EU citizens out when we make the Brexit move. I don't know where you come from.
OK.
Where do you come from? We're not going to throw them out, Diane.
Reassurance. And the government could give them reassurance, and it refuses to do so.
No.
OK, anyone else
we are not
Brexit here?
throwing anyone out the country.
Who voted Brexit here? You did, sir? OK. This gentleman here, in the middle with the blue shirt.
I voted for Brexit, and I kind of get that we don't have a complete mandate to leave the single market because it was only won by 2%. But the Greens and the Lib Dems talk about having a second referendum. Talk about having a second referendum. You accept that we left the European Union, but then you want to give us the chance to then remain in the European Union. Surely it should just be deal or no deal, or just no referendum, because you've accepted that we've left, but now you just want us to go back.
It's a totally different question. The public have voted to leave. We haven't got any understanding yet about what the destination is. Let me just make a simple point. Theresa May has said she wants to crash out of the European Union if they can't get a good deal. They may not get a good deal.
Did she use that phrase?
In which case we'll have a chaotic situation in which citizenship is not understood, there are no rules by which business can operate, and under those circumstances the British public should have an opportunity to pass a judgment on what has been agreed.
OK.